Um, the film business in North America has been around for about 100 years, and it's been a fundamentally self-contained business. It's financed itself, it's released its contents to its own market, and that's worked just fine. That was until more recently, with the financial conditions globally as they were. It meant America had to lean in and depend on other investors, Canadian investors, Middle Eastern, South American, European, and Asian investors. And I think corresponding to that was the fact that the financial and fiscal strength of certain territories, including China, Asia, South America, and Russia, had increased a great deal. So they had the wallet, the muscle, if you will, to be able to buy into one of the most expensive industries. It's a trend that's been shifting since about 1999, since the big bubble burst of '99 when Europe bought into America. And in the last 3 or 4 years, since the Middle East and Asia are buying into North America.
And in your opinion, are investors finding it easier to invest in Hollywood rather than, for example, Bollywood?
It's not a case of ease. Bollywood, for starters, Bollywood means the industry based in Bombay, and India has two industries. One is the Bombay industry and one is the Indian industry. Fundamentally, the Indian industry is rather minuscule. In a global presence of $80 to $100 billion, India is one. It's about $150 million more than Nigeria. It releases 1,000 films a year, which is a massive number of pictures. But at the same time, the revenue generated out of those films isn't a lot. More importantly, it's not very well structured from an investor perspective. The international film industry can be analyzed, understood, and it's not quite as speculative. So Indian investors who are very astute and are people who invest in pharmaceuticals, in car manufacturing, and in everything under the sun, lean in towards international cinema because it lends itself to their interests, their investor interests, rather than just their film interest. Which is why there isn't a specific comparison you can make between the international film industry and the Indian film industry. The Indian film industry is a little more akin to a cottage industry that serves the interests of its own populace within India.
So then maybe this question wouldn't even work, but is there a bit of a rivalry between Hollywood and Bollywood in terms of revenues, film showcase, or is it difficult to sort of compare the two?
There's no comparison. The Hollywood industry is what I personally best describe as Mecca to the film business. It's unavoidable, it's unmatched, it's been around for more than 100 years. It generates revenues, for instance, if you look at North America and South California, it generates revenues more than any other industry. Internationally speaking, in recessions, it performs better than almost any other industry. Whereas in India, Bollywood has been seen as a bit of a side industry. It was a place where people gambled surplus wealth. It wasn't a place where people invested. And there's two elements to investment. One is a proclivity. And for instance, in the Brazil, Russia, India, China nexus, Russians and Chinese are less inclined to fund international cinema. Russians might buy football clubs, but they won't pay for movies. Brazilians, I set up and started working in an equity fund in Brazil, which is what led me to India. Brazilians love North American cinema, as do Indians. They fundamentally love entertainment content and cinema, so that lends them towards entertainment. But at the same time, their own industry doesn't give them the comfort that they want as investors, so then they're more inclined to turn towards Hollywood, where the bets are bigger, the returns are bigger. The absence of competition is because of language, for starters. By virtue of being English language, the content sells everywhere, from Australasia and the Middle East to African countries in South America. It's very important to remember that North America till 1995-96 represented 65% of the global viewing populace. It is a cultural difference. People tend to watch cinema a lot more in North America than anywhere else in the world. It has changed over many years with the advent of television and satellite, etc. Now the shift is 60-40 to the world. So 40% of the world's population, viewing populace, comes from America. But that's a huge amount. for a country that's 260 million of population to be 40% of the world's viewing populace means it's best to focus on American content.
Can we say that Abu Dhabi is looking to replace Bollywood as a key investor in Hollywood?
Given the size and scale of budgets, I have done 2 films as an investor in the last quarter, both of which are budgeted near $200 million each. The appetite is insatiable. So I don't know that there's any scope for competition. There is enough room for everybody to operate. More importantly, in the last 2 years, because of the global recession, the resources of the American studios are limited. Their marketing budgets are astronomical, and they struggle to cover those. There are some marketing and advertising and prints and advertising funds who assist them. But fundamentally, the banks support them to that end, which means Middle Eastern investors, South American investors who are lesser known, and Indian investors can all participate and currently do participate. I work with investors from literally every one of those countries, and they are all participating in this business. There's enough room for everyone.